Hey everyone, welcome to Make Your Peace, a 4YE podcast about Wynonna Earp. I'm Catherine Meushaw.
And I'm Lara Hayes.
And today we'll be discussing Season 2, Episode 12, I Hope You Dance. And as per usual, before we get into it, I wanted to say a quick thank you to everybody for the feedback all season, since this is a season finale. So this is, I think, the 9th podcast episode we've done, or episode of the podcast we've done, and we've gotten some really great feedback, and we really enjoy it. So, hope you enjoy this one for the Season 2 finale. Alright, so a quick-ish recap. Because it was a season finale, a lot happened. So the demon Clutie, whose real name we found out is Bolshar, woke up but kind of didn't rise yet. He's just kind of chilling in the mine still. Doc and Wynonna did something cool and split the bullet shot from Peacemaker and killed both widows. Wynonna gave birth to a beautiful baby girl that she named after her and Doc's moms and sent to live with Gus. And while we didn't see Gus all season, it was nice that was how she was mentioned and brought up. So really loved that. Rosita betrayed Wynonna and tried to steal the baby, but Waverly was able to stop it by shooting her with Peacemaker. Dolls barbecued the order, and we found out that neither Waverly or the baby were half revenant because they were able to cross the line, even though we kind of sort of knew that about Waverly before. And at the end of the episode, Wynonna paid a visit to Mama Earp. So, where do you want to start?
That's a really good question. I'm going to start with the episode title. I feel like it's the easiest. We'll just knock this out.
How did I know?
Yeah, it's baby steps. We got a lot to cover. So when I saw this episode title, I was like, okay, we are losing the baby. I believed that the baby would live. I was thinking maybe the Order was going to take it, but I knew when I saw that Wynonna would not be keeping the baby. And I still wasn't prepared for that parting, Catherine. Somehow I had this theory all along. I thought it was the most likely. We get here, we get this episode title, and I'm like, okay, it's happening. And I was still a mess, and we're going to talk more about that later. But for now, I just want to say, I think it was really unfair to start us off with Leanne Womack feels, because frankly, if you can listen to I Hope You Dance and not break down in tears, you don't have a soul.
And you gotta appreciate Emily Andress, who the day after the episode aired reminded us of how heart-wrenching that song was by tweeting it out. So, great. Thank you, Emily. Yeah, I mean, it's just, you knew it was gonna be heartbreaking the second they released the title list back, months ago. It's just, you don't know quite what to expect. It's definitely fairly heart-wrenching. I mean, should we talk about the baby now, or do you want to wait?
Well, let's just get into it. We have so much to cover, I don't think that it matters how we cover it.
Alright, it's just the whole scene with Wynonna and the baby is just so heartbreaking, and just, her saying, I didn't know it would be this hard. It just breaks you, because Wynonna knows she's doing what's best for her baby. And she knows she can't keep her. And I think she's known that. And it's so heartbreaking. Melanie is just so amazing in that scene. And I also, watching it, I kept thinking about, that was the last scene that she filmed for this season.
Yeah.
And then she went and gave birth 4 days later. So, what an emotionally taxing way to end this season. But yeah, we kind of were solid about the fact that we wanted to keep, Wynonna's interactions with the baby would be interesting. I kept joking around, with how she interacts with the baby belly. It's I'd like to see how she interacts with an actual baby. But we knew that the baby was not safe in purgatory.
Yeah. And again, the fact that I knew that, the fact that I knew that I predicted early on that the baby would be given up or taken, that did not spare my heart in any way. And what you said, Melanie delivered a powerhouse performance. And as a soon-to-be mother, when that was filmed as a new mother, I can't imagine what that was like for her to shoot. I really can't. What shocked me was and this is kind of what you were just talking about, what shocked me was the way I bonded to this baby. And it was a result of those moments. It was a result of every little high five that Wynonna gave her baby bump, and every time she checked in with the baby and gave her belly a poke, every time she spoke to her. Emily Andress and Melanie created a character before we ever met Alice Michelle, and they did that to make us believe that giving Alice up and hiding her away was the hardest thing Wynonna ever had to do. And we believed it because it was hard for us to let go too. And like Wynonna said, I didn't know how much I wouldn't want to.
It's so heartbreaking. And like, you just mentioned the baby's name, and I just started tearing up. Like, the whole thing is just so heartbreaking.
I'm sorry.
Damn it, Lara, we are 6 minutes into this. Do not make me cry yet.
And she's already crying. I've got her right where I want her, folks.
Yeah, I thought you were the nice one. And like, I really want to know when she made the decision to give up the baby. I really want to know when she and Nicole had that conversation, because she seemed pretty solid. So I'm really curious, like, when she made this decision. Was shooting Jonas when she made that decision? Because it was, like I said, when we were in that episode of the podcast, that was kind of that moment where she kind of, her first time that she did something, like, as a mother, like, really doing something for her child.
Right.
And I kind of was wondering if that's kind of where she decided, I have to give this baby up until the curse has ended. So I want to know about that. And I'm sure once she ends the curse, I'm sure she'll get to see the baby again. It'll be a while, I think. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I am so glad that the baby wasn't kidnapped.
Yeah.
Although it's still like watching the helicopter like fly away and knowing like it didn't go, like she didn't go directly to Gus. She went to Perry first. I'm still like, it still makes me a little nervous, because like so many things could happen, especially with the players involved. I'm still sitting here like, oh God, the baby really made it to Gus, right? Like, please tell me the baby made it to Gus. Because I was cheering, like the second Waverly mentions, that the baby won't get to learn their traditions. And she says our baby, and that was another thing that just kind of was just so, that I love that Waverly called the baby our baby. It's a nice callback to several episodes ago when Wynonna says ours.
Yeah.
The baby's ours.
I was really thrilled when Dolls just, channeled his inner dragon and set the Order on fire, because, you and I talked about it before. I got very uncomfortable when the Order started talking about the baby a couple episodes ago, and I was like, man, like, I know, like, again, like, I know this is a possibility that I've entertained, but I really don't want these guys to come in and take this baby. And then they killed the OBGYN. My funny OBGYN.
I was so upset about that.
I was like, man, I don't need another reason to dislike Ewan. And it was like, Dolls was right there with me, and he was like, I've got this. And I was like, do your thing, man. And I was so happy that I really hope they're all dead. I do. I hope all of the Order is just dead.
I don't think Dolls would have left them alive at this point, but I did enjoy Dolls barbecuing them. That was pretty satisfying.
Yep.
Because Ewan had already said that there wasn't much left of the Order. I think that might have been it, unless there's a weird straggler at the firehouse. But I think that was it. And it is kind of fitting that, a bunch of firemen just kind of died by fire in a really twisted way. Evil firemen
You're right.
barbecued. Yeah, I know, it just popped into my head.
That's nice. That's a good one. Nice touch.
But yeah, Dolls barbecuing them was very satisfying. The Dolls had a couple of really good moments. And yeah, that was definitely one of them. I'm so worried about the baby though. Like, still, I'm just so worried because Black Badge is still a player, I think.
Yeah, I think the baby is fine for now. I think, next season, I think Wynonna's going to have even more guilt. I think we need to brace for Doc to have a major crisis of self. Not only is he mortal now, but Bobo, when he turned that blade around, I'm pretty sure he impaled his trigger hand. So,
yeah.
So there's not only that, and then, he was he's talking to Dolls. He's standing on the edge of the well, and he's telling him that he knows he's mortal, that he can feel it, that there's a burning. He's talking about his lungs. So he's probably got TB again. Like, I think next season is going to be I think there's so much happening with these characters as of right now that we really don't need to. Now the baby is kind of external, like removed. I don't think that she's going to come into play much, except as far as like what Wynonna is feeling and what she's dealing with, and maybe Waverly too. But yeah, we've got plenty of stuff going on with just our people that I don't think we need to worry about, like the baby being put in jeopardy anytime soon. That could happen in the future, but I don't expect that will happen in the near future.
Oh, definitely. And talking about Doc, I mean, Melanie's acting was so great. I mean, she's always amazing, but also Tim in those moments with Doc and the baby was also just heartbreaking. So I did want to mention that as well. That Tim did. He was so good this episode, from just with everything, like just with what he was struggling with, because he is, I didn't even think about the fact that that knife hit his right hand, his dominant hand, and a lot of his identity is in, the quickest draw.
Yeah, he's a gunslinger.
So that could be a big issue. I think he's going to be facing a lot of identity stuff next season, but just Tim's acting just was so. I cried, like, all of the stuff surrounding the baby. Like, I cried with Wynonna and the baby. I cried with Doc and the baby. Just when he's holding her and he's like so dainty and blue, I couldn't I couldn't handle it.
The name reveal was emotional for me too. It wasn't the thing that got me the most. We can talk about that later, but the baby, the name reveal really shook me up. Not only, because it was beautiful naming the child after both their mothers, it was, and thank God she didn't go with Phil. I think the baby could pull off Blue just fine, but I don't know about Phil on a little girl. But it was super. I loved that name reveal scene because I thought it was so important to give Wynonna and Doc a moment alone together to just be with each other and grieve.
Yes, definitely. I really liked that scene. I'm not gonna lie, when in the episode where Wynonna asks Doc what his mother's name was, I was kind of thinking that it might be because of the baby, that was why we were hearing it. So when we had the reveal, it was still an emotional moment for me, like just the name reveal, but it wasn't like a complete surprise, I guess, because I was kind of expecting at least Doc's mother to be honored.
Right.
But no, I agree. That moment was just, between the two of them, was so wonderful. And, when Doc's like, I would have done everything different because, it seems as if the only people who knew Wynonna was going to give up the baby were Wynonna and Nicole.
Yeah.
Like, Doc didn't seem to know, and so that's just, he's got so much going on, and, Dolls is telling him, some people view a baby as their immortality. And, he's got all this thinking about, and then, he arrived just in time to see his daughter get taken away. And I did love that Wynonna got a very well-earned F-bomb with the, we're going to end this effing curse.
Yeah.
I'm going to end this effing curse so that she doesn't have to. But it's also heartbreaking. I mean, Doc and Wynonna didn't get, like, any time with the baby. Waverly got more time with the baby than either of them did.
That was what hit me the hardest. At first I was like, what the heck, Waverly? Like, do not cross that line. Half Revenant or not, Wynonna would never forgive you. And then I realized it's one of the bravest things she's ever done, and she did it for Wynonna. Mm-hmm. We were always going to find out if Alice was a Revenant. The second Perry tried to leave with her, we would know that. But the reason that Waverly walked herself and the baby over the line was because she had to know whether or not Wynonna would one day have to shoot one or both of them. However slim that chance may have been, given she just held Peacemaker.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, like, rather than put that burden on her sister or risk some stranger whisking Alice out of the Ghost River Triangle to who knows what end, Waverly took it upon herself to find out the truth about both of them. And Waverly would sooner risk setting herself on fire or at least getting a little bit scorched than force that choice or that responsibility or just that awful moment on Wynonna. And, like, the fact that Nicole let her jeopardize herself that way, the fact that Nicole, who has been in trouble for weeks for not respecting Waverly's choices for weeks, but the fact that she was there only as a safeguard to pull Waverly back and make sure she didn't burn to death, like, that's exactly what I needed to see from her. And I need to see more of it, but we saw Nicole, like, respecting Waverly's choices, even if they're dangerous, because it's what Waverly needed from her, and it's what Waverly asked of her.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, the only thing about that was, like, how far away she was standing. You know, she's got, you know, Waverly telling her, like, you know, if the baby starts screaming or I start to burn, pull us back quickly. And Nicole's sitting there, like, or standing there, like, 12 feet away. Like, what are you doing? So it's like, that was the only part where I was like, how are you supposed to pull them back quickly? But, you know, part of that is, too, you know, giving Waverly literal and figurative space. You know, she needed, this was not her decision. She was just there to support, and she couldn't do that walking over the border with Waverly. She had to stand back, and this was something that she had to let Waverly do on her own.
Yeah,
that was the only thing that got me about that was just how far away she was. But I can see why. And, I mean, it's just, you make an excellent point about Waverly needing to do that for herself, the baby, and Wynonna.
You make an excellent point that she was pretty far away as far as safeguards go. But I think she'd have gotten there in time.
And it's funny because Nicole didn't need to be asked to pull them back over. You know, Nicole Hott is not going to stand there and watch anybody, let alone the woman that she loves and a newborn, burn. Like, no way. So it's kind of like, that's just not who Nicole is. But it was good, and I think it was definitely important that Waverly did ask. You saying that about Waverly, it's a lot to think about. I'm hung up on some stuff with Waverly and the Half Revenant thing. Like, if crossing the line would burn her, like, let's say she's Half Revenant and crossing the line would burn her, she wouldn't be able to go on the homestead, or she would be experiencing a severe amount of discomfort being on the homestead, and she would not have been able to use Peacemaker.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure why Waverly was so concerned about herself at that point, or why anybody was really concerned about Waverly at that point. Like, that kind of was like, girl, you've already been on the homestead. You shouldn't have even been entertaining the idea that you couldn't leave, because it's clear that even if you were Half Revenant, the rules don't apply to you.
Yeah. Okay, so I had a thing about, like, Waverly's parentage. We'll just go straight into that since we're already talking about it.
Shall we? I have quite a few notes on that.
Let's just get it out of the way. So we got one more hint in this episode, right? But we didn't get any real answers. Bobo is not the father, but Bobo did call Waverly kin. I don't know what that means. On the one hand, you and I have discussed, like, the speculation that Waverly is actually an angel. Like, I mean, if Bobo is a demon, then in the angels and demons sense, that would kind of make them kin, which is cool. Another option, which Marie brought to us, is that Constance Clutie is Waverly's mother, and Bobo and Constance were certainly mystically entwined, right? So Constance is still in the running. This whole, like, mystery around what now it's what is she, like, more so than who are her parents, right? It's really starting to remind me of like True Blood's Sookie Stackhouse, who was revealed.
Oh, yeah.
Who was revealed to be a halfling. She was a half fairy, half human. And it wouldn't surprise me if we've yet to meet at least one of Waverly's parents. She could be descended from a magical creature that we haven't even met yet, which seems likely to me at this point because the season ended without an answer. And now we're looking down at season 3, right? We've got an entire season to explore this mystery, to build a backstory around it to make it believable, right? Whereas if both her parents were people we knew or beings we already understand, there wouldn't be any need for all of this intrigue.
Exactly. And just a couple of notes, because I went through and like kind of mapped out the information we had, because I guess Waverly and Wynonna didn't really talk much at all about what Wynonna learned, because Waverly seems to be very stuck. I think like there was no indication that Bobo ever said anything that remotely like, I'm your father. She just made these assumptions and could have been cleared up because he keeps calling her my angel, my angel, my angel. But we knew the answer to that already. Like the audience knew the answer to that. And Wynonna knew the answer to that. So it was confusing that Wynonna's reasoning for thinking that Bobo was Waverly's father, it was, after my, trip to the past. But it's like, but Wynonna, you kind of already knew he saw you and you gave him Waverly's name. And that's why he called Waverly my angel. Like, Wynonna, you knew that. So that was interesting because, I mean, the things that Bobo has said about Waverly. She's not an Earp. He's called her my angel again, but that we know we have an answer for that, kind of. He has said her lineage isn't pure.
Yeah.
He has called her pure.
Yep.
Because when he tells Doc that he promised her to Bolshar, he says he calls her pure.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me that, Waverly, when she's talking to Nicole after they cross the line, she's like, well, Bobo lied to me. And then Nicole's like, well, what about the DNA test? And she's like, I'm not an Earp either. So Bobo didn't lie. Waverly made what she thought a logical leap, but Bobo hasn't lied yet.
True. And, in Waverly's defense, she made the same leap that a lot of us watching made when we were, kind of seeing all of this play out. But again, I think a lot of people abandoned that theory when Wynonna went on her time walk thing to the past. So, I don't know. I thought that was a little strange too. Like, I didn't know why Wynonna walked out of that, time walk brush with death thing, thinking that Bobo was her father. That didn't really hit right with me either. I actually had a similar note, but so that didn't really land. But as far as like Waverly, kind of being convinced that Bobo is, at least one parent, that did make sense to me, given how much she does not know.
Yeah, and it's just, I guess it kind of comes back to one of those frustrating, like, I don't understand why Wynonna thought so, because we know, like, 3 people know why Bobo calls Waverly my angel. Wynonna, Bobo, and the audience. I mean, and I say 3 people, obviously the third is an entity, because the audience is an entity, but still. So yeah, I just thought, like, that whole thing was very confusing. Like, I really liked the episode, but that was one thing where I was just like, really? Because with him saying she was kin, there's a lot of different ways to go with that. And I think it doesn't take the angel thing out, especially with her being called pure. Like, which is interesting, with him saying her lineage was impure and then turning around and saying she was pure. So.
Yeah, it could have been, who knows, it could have been a pure of heart thing. It could have, I think that this was an underlying mystery of the season, and I think it's going to be a much more prominent issue next season.
Oh, I agree. I definitely agree. And it's probably going to, especially since Bobo has promised her to Bolshar. Waverly's been promised to this demon, and
It's like, what a jerk, man. Come on.
well, it's obvious that Bobo hasn't grown or really changed much, and I think this most recent trip to Hell really messed with him, and he's in self-preservation mode.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't want to go again. He doesn't want to, and he's going to do everything he can, and he's not thinking straight.
Yeah.
Like, that's been clear. He's not thinking straight. There's, I believe, a very solid reason that he's still in that straitjacket from the psychiatric hospital.
Yeah. I want to talk about that too. Like, as much as this crazy Bobo has been giving me Spike season 7 feels, in this episode, they were really going for Dracula. Bobo was deeming Clutie's Renfield from right from the straitjacket that he was wearing to the way he was calling Clutie master. Weird brand of like lucid insanity. All he was missing, seriously, was an entree of Beatles. Like, that's it.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even go there. Oh, you're so right.
Thank you.
Sorry, please, I need a minute with that because that's such a great observation. Oh my god, it's totally, because especially when you consider the widows as his wives and stuff like that. Like,
multiple wives, exactly. It's very,
oh my
very
gosh.
Dracula.
It is, oh my gosh.
Which,
thank you for that. Yeah. So great.
I love vampires. Like, I don't know that he's a vampire or anything like that. I don't think he is. But it's still, like, the Dracula parallels are a lot of fun. Like, it's like my Hannibal level of things that I love. Dracula's right up there.
And then, like, Greta calls him the Shadow Lord, and then, Bolshar is his fire's given name or whatever. But, like, the Shadow Lord thing kind of gives more context too, if you think about it now with your kind of Dracula parallel. Oh, that's so good. Sorry guys, this is what happens when Lara and I don't really talk things out until we get on the podcast. You get me like mind blown.
One more thing, because we just talked about bugs. When the widows were shot by Peacemaker and they were broken into like 1,000 creepy bugs, like, do you think that's the end of it? Because those bugs, like, scampered away, like, they didn't, like, roll over and die. And so, I mean, they were very much alive. I shouldn't, like, wish this hard, but, like, a pod person episode could be a lot of fun. And, like, innocent, like, purgatory residents, like, controlled by, like, widow bugs. Like, I think that could be, like, really cool. Or, if we do take Clutie in like the Dracula like way, I wouldn't be surprised if he could like reconstruct them from that. It's like Dracula, would kind of, disintegrate into mist, or, we've seen like a pile of rats and like crazy stuff like that. So that would, kind of maybe be within his realm of like things he could accomplish. Although I think the widows are probably done. But what did like the bugs, like, do you think that'll come into play later?
I don't know, maybe. I did think it was really interesting because they were really heavy on the Black Widow thing,
mm-hmm.
but they burst into some weird, like, shell buggy beetle thing. Like,
kind of looked like
so I thought that
crabs or something.
Yeah, or kind of, I guess almost like a scarab beetle almost.
Yeah, there you go.
So it was definitely more beetle and buggy stuff than an actual arachnid, which kind of surprised me.
Yeah.
I was really surprised by that. That scene was so cool, though.
It was.
I loved that scene. But yeah, I kind of love that Widow Mercedes kind of got into like a F the patriarchy kind of mood, thanks to Wynonna.
That's like, I have that too.
I really love that, and I really hope real Mercedes gets her face back.
Yeah, I do. I hope she gets it back. I don't know about that, but like they didn't, like she was in the hospital, like when we last saw her. So I think we can expect the real Mercedes to come back around. I don't know what they're going to do about her face, but I mean, it's purgatory, like who knows anything could happen. But I also really liked like newly minted feminist level up for Widow Mercedes. I love, like you said, I love that, like she's been hunting Wynonna this whole time, and she's also been like, apparently she's like grudgingly admiring her, which is fun. And I wanted to point this out way back in like our first podcast episode, right? You had a theory that the widows were searching for the seals as a way to like level up. Now that didn't end up being true. They needed the seals for, to raise their husband or whatever. And I thought that we would get like a demon apart from them unlocked that would be our big bad. But technically you were right in that, maybe that's not the reason that they were hunting the seals. But as it turned out, right, Mercedes stole that ring from Meushaw, and then she got this like, witch level up. And she sort of became at least the focal big bad for this season. So I wanted to circle back around and talk to you about that because it didn't play out the way either of us thought. But I really wasn't expecting Mercedes or Beth to kind of get that power up. I thought it was going to be all about Clutie. And I think next season is going to be all about Clutie. But yeah, you called it, man.
Yay. I'm glad you remember what I've said on this thing, because I was trying to think back. And like I have all my notes in my email and stuff, but I was trying to think back, and I'm like, I know there's stuff that I should probably touch on, but I can't remember off the top of my head. So thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Go me. Yeah, I think we did pretty well. Both of us did pretty well with some of our theories. Like you knocked out. I mean, because you were pretty solid about Wynonna giving up the baby and everything, but. Yeah, go us. Yeah, I kind of... Clutie is definitely, or Meushaw is definitely going to be a focal point for season 3. Yeah. I kept getting so nervous, though, because, they've got this demon just chilling in the mine who's really weak and, without an arm. I was so nervous when Doc just kind of left Jeremy there.
Oh, I know.
Because they kept talking about how... he was going to rise and stuff and everything. They keep talking, demon's going to rise, demon's going to rise, demon's going to rise. And then Doc has to run and go, see his baby, and he leaves Jeremy there with Bobo. I got so nervous. I'm like, oh my God. This is it. Jeremy's doomed. I was really worried. I was pleasantly surprised, though, when he was fine.
Yeah. I think, back to, Demon Clutie for a second, I'm starting to wonder if because he's such an integral part of this curse, right? He's like the piece that's weaving it all together. I'm wondering if instead of a big bad thing, we're looking at an arch nemesis thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So he'll, will he be her Moriarty? Will he be this recurring bad guy who, sort of pops in and out? Or he's, constantly behind the big bads she's facing every season, and he's sort of throwing everything he can at her to get rid of her. And then, seasons later, he is the ultimate fight. I'm starting, because again, this whole show is centered around this curse, and Meushaw is the crux of the curse. So it would make sense, at least in my mind, to spread that out over several seasons.
Kind of like the first on Buffy.
Yeah, like the first on Buffy, but yeah, like the first on Buffy, yeah. I don't know why when you said that. I think it's because I got stuck on the Dracula stuff. I went to the Master and not to the first. Yeah, sort of, yeah, like that, just this undercurrent of evil, right, that's sending all of this menace after the Earp sisters, but maybe not directly engaging them, or when he does directly engage them, getting away and not being destroyed.
Or it's possible that everybody speculating that the curse will end once Clutie or Meushaw dies is wrong.
Yeah.
It could very well be the case that Wynonna kills him and still has to kill revenants. The curse is still intact.
Yeah.
We don't really know the circumstances as far as that goes. So he could be this reoccurring, just won't die kind of big bad who just keeps showing up. Or maybe they think he's going to end this, and it just doesn't.
Yeah.
You never know. Especially because he's popped up before, so.
Yeah, I mean, Wyatt didn't kill him. Wyatt trapped him. There's a difference. So that's what I'm leaning towards right now. I'm looking at Bulshar as more of like I said, like an arch nemesis instead of a season 3 big bad, which you and I talked about before. I want her to keep having to kill revenants. So if she puts him in the ground, I'm in the camp that I want the curse to continue at least until she kills the rest of the revenants out there, because I think it's important from a continuity standpoint. But, like, especially with the way this season ended, I'm starting to think more like maybe he's something she'll have to face again and again.
Yeah, I mean, and I definitely agree with you from a continuity standpoint. And I think even larger, Wynonna has such a burden. And I think to just kind of all of a sudden end it without her getting... It's not just about her, it's about her family. It's about all of the Earps who have been tormented by this curse. All of these, it's not just I'm bound to do this. It's, it's almost a revenge thing if you think about it too. And it's just, that would take a lot from her to not let her kind of end these revenants. Like, it seems kind of almost cheap, maybe.
Yeah.
To just kind of take him out with taking out Clooney.
Yeah.
Or Bulshar, whatever.
I just don't think it'll be that easy. And Bulshar's ring, I know you had a note about Bulshar's ring, because so did I, and we were both, like, the note that I read in your recap was similar to, like, what I read in mine. I don't know why Nicole has that. I don't know what she's planning to do with it. It had a profound effect on Widow Mercedes, so she either intends to destroy it, which I doubt. I think she wants to use it from herself. I'm leaning in that direction because of the look she and Dolls exchanged. And, like, if she had exchanged a look with literally anyone else, I would have made, like, the context would have been different. But Dolls is someone, like, look at the lengths he's gone to fight evil. Like, he is actually a man-dragon. So, like, and we know she would do anything in her power to keep Waverly safe. We know she would do anything to protect her. And yeah, so I'm assuming we'll see her, like, use it or put it on, like, to fight demons, but I don't know what the cost will be. There's always a price. And I want to know how much power that ring holds over Bulshar, or how much power it gave him. And now that it's no longer his, is he weakened in any significant way?
Hey, you just threw a lot at me. No, it's okay. So just a few things. I do think that would weaken him much in that rings have been very important in this series, which is interesting, or especially like this season. I do think it was one of the only things kind of keeping him alive and kind of intact for those 100 years he was buried.
Yeah.
I would think that it gave him some power. And maybe it had some sort of, when Mercedes kind of throws it on, her face stops rotting. So, like, and it's completely cleared up. So I'm wondering if it's got some similar healing properties that the Doc's ring has. Maybe it's got some similar immortality-esque properties that Doc's ring has. Right. My mind did not immediately go to Nicole is going to use it. My mind went to that ring dropped on the ground after Mercedes died. And my mind went to Dolls or Nicole picked it up and are working together in some way, shape, or form. Because that file on the Cult of Bulshar, I think, was a Purgatory PD file.
Yeah, it looked like it.
Because I thought at first it might have been something like BBD related. Because I've said multiple times that BBD is not gone. I keep saying it. BBD is not gone. And I think they're going to come back into play. And maybe, I thought at first, because like I said, I on my rewatch, I green capped the folder. And it definitely looks like it's a Purgatory PD folder. I thought at first it was a BBD folder, though. So I was thinking maybe, like, Nicole was actually working with BBD in some way. Because you're right, that the fact that look was shared between Dolls and Nicole, I mean, anybody else, it would have been, yeah, okay. But, I mean, it was a very significant look. Also, you talk about kind of the lengths Dolls goes as far as the demon hunting go. Let's not forget the lengths he went to ensure Nicole survived.
Yeah.
when she was bitten. And I think there's a lot to look at there. But I really thought that this might have been something like Nicole didn't really want to burden Waverly or anybody with this, so she was going to use her resources and what she had to kind of look into this, and maybe she and Dolls are kind of doing something together. So I didn't immediately go to, oh, she's going to put on the ring, and now, like, a little nervous. But that seems kind of, I don't know, like that, maybe out of desperation she might, like if they're in danger and it's kind of like one of those situations where she's got to do it for something.
And I mean, they will be. Like, that's the, like, that's what happens. Like, they will be in, like, dire trouble, and she is reading up about all of this stuff, and she picked the ring up and it's not destroyed. Like, she has it. And it could just be that they're researching, like, the best way to use this against Meushaw. Again, it comes down to the fact that for me, like, what clinched that theory in my mind is that she exchanged that look with Dolls.
And when you're editing an episode of something, especially a season finale, there are very little mistakes as far as where you put a scene.
Yeah.
And when Widow Mercedes tells Wynonna that she has that ring, Meusha's ring, we cut to Nicole, who looks like she's familiar with that. So that was another thing, like maybe she and Dolls were researching demons, like possible demons it could have been, or something like that. And maybe that's part of where that look was. Because that was like, that struck me too, that cut to Nicole after she mentioned Meusha's ring. So I also think that maybe she and Dolls were maybe researching. Because Purgatory, Nicole's position in the police department does give her access to Purgatory's history. And we know hasn't been a happy-go-lucky place. Like, we know there have been demons and unexplained things, so Nicole's in a perfect position to research that.
Yeah. I think she's going to put it, I'm telling you right now, like, I could totally be wrong about this, but I think she's going to do it. I think she's going to try to, superpower herself at least a little bit. Especially this season with, like, everybody signing the blood contract and her getting excluded. And, people, even Waverly often, like, trying to protect Nicole. And I think Nicole views herself as a protector. And I don't think she likes that. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, maybe. And also, I was reminded as we were talking. So Monica, who's a lesbianzer on Twitter, does recaps every week with like an insane theory. And she had a Nicole theory a few weeks ago. And she has this theory that Nicole is half Revenant, like that she's the half Revenant, that, Jonas made reference to. And maybe that gives some sort of answer too. Like, maybe she can cross the line, like, because of her human side or whatever. Maybe she's half Revenant. Maybe she came to town to help for one reason or another, and maybe that's why she recognized the name or the ring or whatever. So I remember that theory, and I wanted to mention it because I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
The joys of a hiatus that will last months is we have plenty of time for speculation and plenty of time to review the series as a whole and see what clues we can pick up. But I didn't even consider the idea of Nicole actually putting it. So.
Now you're going to have to.
But what if, like, it's not Nicole? What if it's Waverly? And what if because Waverly, let's say Waverly's an angel, and with how pure she is, she puts on that ring, and it enables her to defeat the demon. Like,
sure.
We don't know what it does. Or we get, like, Dark Waverly, like, more than just Gooverly. Like, maybe it just does the opposite. Who knows? I thought it was interesting, sticking with the ring thing, that, the costume changed for Mercedes.
Yeah.
She went from, the dark, the Black Widow outfit and everything to white. And I think that was with what white indicates, like, when you've got a white dress or whatever, especially when you're talking in contexts of stories like this, like sci-fi or fantasy or whatever. I thought that was an interesting choice.
Yeah, I think I called it her Gandalf moment. I really liked it. I thought it was a great look on her. I loved also like how in love with her look everybody on Twitter seemed to be. I was just like, God, like I follow all the right people. Like everybody was just like really feeling Widow Mercedes in that white getup. And, God, it's just
I mean,
weird.
what was
Yeah,
not to like?
I really hope they bring actual Mercedes back because I'm so attached to her now. But yeah, that it had a really great effect. I loved just it as an image, like going from,
Yeah.
black to white like that was really cool. And I think like, I don't, that's, never mind. It's a total non sequitur. We won't even go there. Peacemaker. You want to talk
Oh,
about
but now I'm
Peacemaker?
curious. But now I'm curious about where you were gonna
No, I
go.
just like, I think like the Chinese consider white to be a like a color associated with death. So it has,
Oh, I
yeah, it
didn't know
has
that.
like a different, context for, like we would consider it to be, like pure or, like something like that, or even a benevolent color, whereas it has, it's the colors don't mean the same thing everywhere. So that was where my mind went. But like I said, it was
Yeah.
it's a non sequitur. I can't take it any further. I don't, sorry everybody.
No, that's interesting. I was curious. Yeah, you can't just like drop like, oh, I'm not gonna talk
I'm
about
sorry.
this. It's like, gosh, man, isn't that what we're doing
It
this
is. It
for?
is.
But then you tried to like very quickly switch the subject to Peacemaker. Is that where you
I
were going?
was.
Would you like to talk about
I would love to
Peacemaker?
talk about Peacemaker.
I too would love to talk about Peacemaker.
Please, after you.
So, are you sure? Okay. I love Peacemaker, and I'm sure I've talked about it before. And Peacemaker is kind of its own delightful character. And we've seen more of that this season, when it buzzes to wake up
Hmm.
Wynonna. I've had this conversation a couple of times where Peacemaker is kind of a little Thor's hammer-y, and the scene where Wynonna and Doc split the bullet also reminded me of Xena's chakram. And in both of those cases, with Thor's hammer and Xena's chakram, and I think with Peacemaker, you've got a weapon that kind of has a mind of its
Totally.
own. That knows what its master, quote unquote, needs.
Right.
So I have so many feelings about Peacemaker because I thought it was. I rewatched that when I rewatched that scene in Shorties where Waverly shoots
Hmm.
Rosita. I had missed a lot of the dialogue on Friday, and the dialogue in that scene makes all the
Yeah.
difference. And that whole scene, because Wynonna's pleading with this gun for help. She's developed this relationship with this
Right.
gun. And she's pleading for help, and Waverly's scared, and she's like, I can't do this. I can't use Peacemaker, whatever. Rosita's sitting there like, you can't, you're not the heir, you're not 27. You've got this situation where, Wynonna's like, we need your help, we need you to work, we need you to get in the game. And it's not until Rosita grabs a bottle and breaks it and kind of moves a little bit towards Wynonna. And Wynonna yells Peacemaker, that it turns blue, and Waverly's able to shoot her. And she doesn't kill her.
Yeah.
She just grazes her. So I think, sorry, I have a lot of scattered Peacemaker thoughts. And I think I've had this conversation a few times with people where Peacemaker seems to be very sentient. Because my friend Dev said she kind of likes the idea that Peacemaker corrects aim because of the innocents sent to hell and tries to prevent that from happening with each successful
Sure.
heir. And I kind of like that, especially in this regard. It did enough to save the heir. And in this case, its duty was to the heir.
Right.
And I think Peacemaker kind of, when Peacemaker kind of has some understanding of, I think, someone who's corrupt or good or whatever you want to say it. And I think, there's a reason why it didn't shoot Rosita square. It didn't let Waverly shoot her square in the forehead. And there was also Peacemaker turning blue. This is the second time we have seen Peacemaker turning blue. Last year, I interviewed Emily, and I asked her about that. And I'm gonna read her response because there are a few things I noticed in this time around that were a little bit different. So what Emily said was, I definitely think it has to do with the fact that Wynonna was making a slightly different choice. She wasn't sending revenants or demons back to hell. She was basically doing a mercy kill. Even in the past, we've seen when the gun glows yellow or orange, it kind of has these satanic runes on it, and this was more of a beautiful kind of elegant filigree, and the gun made a different sound. And then she, my gut feeling is it definitely has to do with Wynonna's choice to kill a human. And then the gun didn't glow like that when Wynonna killed her dad, but Wynonna also wasn't the heir. She wasn't 27, so the gun did nothing. It just killed her dad. But you know what? Knowing that her dad, that Wynonna Earp, was kind of corrupt, the fact that Wynonna killed him with Peacemaker and that Peacemaker let that happen is also fairly interesting. And then she said, I think Peacemaker has more intent and maybe more consciousness than we talked about before. So I wanted to mention that. Yeah. Because that's, I think, what a lot of people have been saying about the gun. And Peacemaker did not make that same noise this time. Peacemaker made the normal revenant, like the normal orange glowy noise. It did not make the same noise it made when Wynonna shot Willa. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. That goes along with what I was working through with you like the other night when I sent you that DM. I think what the initial thought that I had, which I talked to you about, was that Peacemaker glowing blue had to do with it calibrating to a new holder. That was like the first thought that popped into my mind when she picked it up. And it would work in the sense that like the gun was adjusting to being back in Wynonna's hands when she picked it up after Willa had been wielding it. And then, it's doing the same thing when Waverly picks it up. But what it comes down to in the end is that Peacemaker put Willa in the ground in season 1. And it spared Rosita. It grazed her. Like you said, it hit her temple. And it was glowing blue in both those instances. And I started to focus more on the color change. And I think the gun does recognize who's holding it. And obviously that's why it does or it doesn't work. But I think going along with what you're saying and what Emily is saying, I think the gun recognizes the target. And I think the gun doesn't just judge the holder as being worthy to wield it. I think it judges the target as being worthy to die. And I think the blue glow has to do with that. I think it has to do with the intent of the wielder and the heart of the target. I think Willa had to be put down, and as much as I didn't like her personally, she was a victim. She was abducted as a child. She was held against her will. She was a perfect candidate for Stockholm Syndrome. Rosita was an innocent bystander. We established this. She was shot down by Wyatt. She didn't deserve it. I think at the end of season 1, Peacemaker judges Willa and weighs the situation, and I think it put her down because there was no way to save her, or because Willa's work was done, or because her time was up.
It was a mercy kill.
Exactly. Or her time was up, or there was just no redemption. Redemption was not possible at this point. And I think the fact that the gun spared Rosita suggests to me that Peacemaker knows she still has a part to play. She could still be redeemed. She is not the enemy necessarily. I think it looked at her heart. And I mean, we see Wynonna working with Greta in this episode, an episode after she was, erased from history, because Wynonna needs an iron witch to smelt a bullet from the side plate, as they called it. She's a pragmatist. She's going to do what she has to do to get the job done. And Wynonna, I don't think, is one to really hold grudges. So I wouldn't be surprised. I fully expect Rosita to be in the next season and for us to see more of her. I think there's a reason that Peacemaker spared her, and I think we're going to find out what that is.
Definitely. And I also, with that, Wynonna may or may not be someone to hold grudges. I think the ladies should have learned by now to kind of talk stuff out. I mean, they had a revenant that went after them in season 1 for not kind of airing grievances and talking stuff out. But Waverly may not be the same case, especially. But no, I agree with you. I think, Peacemaker. I love Peacemaker. It's such a cool gun, and it's a cool character. I mean, Peacemaker is its own character. So yeah, we definitely haven't seen the last of Rosita, and I think the fact that Alice got away safely
Hmm.
will possibly save Rosita. And you could tell Rosita kind of lost control of the situation and kind of, when she hit Wynonna, the look on her face was like, oh shit,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I think it
Um,
really spun out of control. Absolutely. And I wasn't
because,
surprised by Rosita's double cross. That's what I told you. I expected this after Wynonna made that awful bargain to shoot her last. Like that's some kind of a condolence. But
well,
go ahead.
no, go ahead, no, go.
They're just the thing here for me is that neither woman had much choice. Wynonna could have worded that better, could have handled it better, could have said we'll talk about it later, could have whatever. But that's essentially why I'm not too upset about it. Like Wynonna is the heir, which means she's cursed to kill revenants, and Rosita is a revenant. That's the long and the short of it. Rosita is going to die. Wynonna is going to kill her unless somehow we can, like lift this curse and then everybody just gets to go back to their lives and be alive, which I don't think is very likely. Wynonna couldn't promise to let Rosita live. She's got a destiny to fulfill and she's got a curse to break. And Rosita isn't going to willingly die. Who would? Like nobody's rushing to go to
Fish
hell.
did.
Right. So they were just,
Fish
they were
did.
two people backed into a corner by their situations and they handled them poorly. Wynonna's apology, which she absolutely owed Rosita, who at least up until that point had only ever tried to help. It came too late, and Rosita had already enacted a plan to save herself, which is the exact same thing Bobo is doing. And it's the same thing that anybody would do in that situation. And I like what the show is maybe trying to say about the demons we make, like for ourselves in our lives, through our poor choices, right? The enemies we make by not thinking of others, or or not considering our own actions. Like Greta said, the best parts of of me died with my sister, and she was the enemy last week,
Yeah.
right? Because her sister went out on a limb and she helped the Earp sisters, and in Greta's mind, the Earp sisters, her sister reaching out like that, it's what killed her sister. And then in this season, in this episode, we see Rosita acting out, protecting number one because Wynonna gave her no other option. Like, neither one of those women necessarily had to be villains or enemies. They were enemies that were made by choices that were made.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Rosita's betrayal is a direct result of Wynonna not treating her like a person after finding out that she was a revenant. And so Rosita did what she could. Especially, Doc had promised to protect her. And part of that was, not only had Doc promised to protect her, but Doc promised that Wynonna would protect her. And when the time came, Rosita was instead threatened and treated like a monster when she was given... She gave no reason for Wynonna to do that. So yeah, the betrayal, and I watched with my sister, and she was sitting there the second they were alone. All three of them were alone in Shorty's. She's like, we're sure we're good with Rosita. I'm like, yeah, we can trust Rosita. So of course, when Rosita nailed Waverly with the pool table, I was just like, yeah. My sister sat there and went, told you.
Yeah. Whoops.
Sorry, I like to see the good in people. But no, I mean, it's because Wynonna didn't treat her like a person, and, I think Wynonna has been doing kind of a crap job of doing that lately, to be honest, with the Revenants. Like, she hasn't been doing that, where she's been, like, I think Dolls has been an influence in that way, where he's just like, just shoot him. So she finds out Rosita's a Revenant, and is like, yep, I'm gonna not treat you like a person, even though, like, I have no reason to, except for the fact that you're a demon that I have to kill.
We kind of saw that with Buffy too, though. Like Buffy went through that right before she went on her, like, what was it? Like they did that spell where she got to talk to like the first Slayer and everything. She faces off with Dracula, and he, refers to her patrolling as hunting, and she starts talking about like to Giles about how cold it's starting to make her, and how how closed off she's becoming and stuff. So I think it's a little bit understandable, to you do it so many you do it so many times that becomes the easy thing to do.
Definitely. I just had a couple more random Peacemaker notes.
Yeah.
So if the bullet and Peacemaker, sorry, if the plate and Peacemaker were both made from the same metal and also had the amylite in it, which was the more important part of this, the amylite or the metal? Because if it's the amylite, because of how it it kind of wards demons off, couldn't they make another bullet? The homestead is on a bedrock of it.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
And then my note says really missing the
Yeah.
blacksmith, because Maddie would have been able to figure this stuff out. So I don't think they're as SOL on some of this as we think, especially because Wynonna seemed to, she said something about iron when she woke up last episode, didn't she?
Yeah, I think she did.
So, which isn't iron, random tangent, kind of a softer metal?
Softer than what?
I don't know. It's just there's like harder and softer metals and stuff like that. It makes sense in my head, but maybe it doesn't make sense when I actually like. But no, it's like, so my thought was it'd be kind of a weird thing to make like the gun out of.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know. Or maybe it'd be easier to make the gun out of it. I don't know. Either way, if the important thing is the amylite, like it should be, because if the plate was just iron and amylite, they should be able to recreate that bullet. Sorry, that's where I was going with that. Brain is all over the place. I need to stop reading my notes and talking. So yeah, I don't see why they couldn't possibly make more bullets.
Right.
To kill Clody. And I do like how Peacemaker kind of burned Waverly when she was done. It was just kind of like, okay, you can let me go now. Like, it's like, just remember who my master is, and it ain't you yet. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of funny. She like, make up your mind, and drops
That was
it.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite moments too.
It just made me laugh.
Another wonderful moment given to us by a sentient gun.
What other big things did you?
I got a couple. Okay, so at least two more big things.
Okay.
So when Doc died, he went to hell, which I think is a little bit harsh. Although I think hell is a pretty harsh concept in general, like just it is. But earlier in the episode, when he's, staring down at Wynonna and they're going to split the bullet or whatever, he tells her that he saw Wyatt when he died and that Wyatt is proud of her, which he could have just been lip service. He could have just been lying to her, or he could have just been trying to sell this to the widows, Beth and Mercedes. But I don't know. Do you think Wyatt Earp is just kicking it in hell with all the revenants he sent there?
Honestly, I've mentioned this before. Like, I think I mentioned this back in the Jump Back episode. What was that, episode 8? I don't necessarily think that Wyatt Earp was a good guy, necessarily. He was kind of morally corrupt in some ways, I think. He lost sight of what he was supposed to do. And so, honestly, him being sent to hell wouldn't entirely surprise me, especially with the family being cursed.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
But if he were in hell, and Doc instead saw him in hell instead of up there, as Doc said, I feel like we might have heard about Wyatt being in hell before. Maybe. Or maybe something, from a Revenant or something. So, I don't know, because that gave me kind of a lot to think about. I was kind of thinking a lot about that, because it was interesting how, it doesn't seem, we know Doc can lie. It doesn't seem it doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility that he would just do that to be like, hey, you can do this, to kind of give her a boost when he knew she needed it.
Absolutely.
But I don't know. I guess it kind of boils down to if Doc deserves to be in hell.
Doesn't Wyatt? That's my point.
Why doesn't Wyatt? Yeah.
Yep.
So no, it's a good point. And I'd like to hear more on it. I'd like to see it maybe addressed in the show a little bit, because like I said, you would think that if Wyatt was in hell with the Revenants, we would have heard by now, And, they probably wouldn't be that upset about, they could go torture Wyatt down in hell. That's not how hell works. So yeah, I just, the Doc going to hell thing kind of, because, I mean, he did some stuff, but.
He did. I'm not saying he didn't.
Yeah, it did feel kind of harsh. I also, that moment when he's at the well, in the beginning, when Dolls finds him at the well, when he's standing down there, and he's kind of a little jumpy and emotional and everything, it kind of reminded me of Buffy in season 6.
Jet lag from hell must be jet lag from hell.
Yeah, although in this case it was, just the opposite. It was Buffy telling them I was in hell and she wasn't. She was in heaven, and Doc saying I was in heaven, but he was in hell. But I thought that I really got knowing later, like watching that scene, knowing that he tells Bobo he was in hell. I was like, whoa, like that's kind of, gave me some Buffy vibes.
The other thing,
But yeah, no, go ahead.
The other thing I have is about Mama Earp, of course. She's alive. Yeah, she's alive. Not only that, Wynonna knew apparently exactly where she was and how to find her, which changes the Meushaw Earp storyline as we currently know it. If Wynonna has known where she was this entire time, the question is, did she leave her daughters, or was she forced out? Was she forced into hiding? Was she sent away to protect her? Wynonna, meeting up with her so easily, so readily, calling this woman who supposedly abandoned her mama, like she's still on mama terms, that changes things. And I'm excited to learn why she left, what were the circumstances, because I believe she has to possess some crucial knowledge, especially given, what Wynonna says at the end, you were right, now what do we do? But she has to possess some crucial knowledge or ability that made her a target. And I'm also very pleased that they brought her into the story, even though it's obvious she hasn't been cast yet because we didn't see her face. Because I didn't want Waverly to get answers about her lineage from Bobo necessarily. I don't think that that's the best place. But now there's another option. So I think it's fairly a sure deal that she'll be getting those answers from Meushaw Earp.
Yeah, I think Waverly is going to be pissed.
Oh, yeah.
I have a theory that Wynonna sought her out when she found out she was pregnant.
Okay.
And stakes got a little bit higher, and maybe she knew that she was maybe going to have to basically abandon her child, and she's like, I got to go see my mom. So I have that theory that maybe, because I'm trying to think of when she might have hit Mama Earp up, because it's very clear that the voiceover we're given isn't the conversation that they had when she got there. It's a conversation that they had already, because Wynonna says, you're right, Bolshar's back. So, it was a very interesting voiceover and a very interesting, monologue and everything. I'm so excited we get Mama Earp. I'm very excited, because Ward seems like an enormous douche nozzle, so I'm looking forward to kind of getting to know Mama Earp. But yeah, her monologue was just so interesting. Did you happen to write it down? I
didn't write it down, no. I watched it twice.
Okay. I wrote it down. Just because I think there's a lot to pull out of it, too. I think there's a lot in her monologue to really take a look at and can really lend to some theories, I think. Because, when Nicole is looking at that file at the end, there's pictures of that cult of Bolshar and everything. We don't really know when those pictures are from. And Heidi actually kind of had an interesting theory that, Waverly is the only survivor of whatever caused those dead bodies in that black and white photo in Nicole's file on that cult. And maybe it's not Waverly, maybe it's Mama Earp.
Maybe.
Especially, I'm just, her, because, she's saying, part of it is, I told you he was real. I never stopped believing, but he will rise. And when he does, you'll believe it too. So maybe she was part of the cult. Maybe, I don't know. I'm very happy that we get to see Mama Earp next season.
Am I. I'm really looking forward to that. Can't wait to see who they cast. I can't wait to hear what she has to say. The answers that she can give us, not just about Waverly, but about Ward and everything surrounding why she left. I am here for it.
Yeah, it's just, it's going to be so great. Because like I said, I don't really care that much about Ward, but I've been really intrigued by their mother. So thank you for bringing Mama Earp in.
One more quick thing is Jeremy. I want to make sure that we get Jeremy in here. He gives Doc those GPS coordinates for the baby pickup. I love that he said way hot. I love that he called them that, because this show is in love with us, you guys, and it's beautiful and amazing. But I don't know how he had those coordinates. I don't know what he meant, when he said, I told you I was in an accident. I don't know if Jeremy is some kind of a precog, because his best laid plans seem to backfire a little sometimes. So I don't know. What do you make of that? Is Jeremy super powered? Because now I really want to just watch the season again and find clues.
He's very intriguing, and, he said he was in an accident when he was 11. He's covered in metal, or, he's got all this metal in him. And, he was taught, it's feelings. It's not like, so I think maybe he's not necessarily like, because a lot of people were saying, oh, he's psychic. And I'm thinking maybe it's not, maybe along those lines, like maybe he's a little empathic,
Right.
but just kind of a long range, because, he knew something, like he knew they needed him to get to the baby and stuff like that. But I don't know. He's very interesting. But I do like how he was like, yeah, I was in a bad accident. Why do you think Black Badge needed me or wanted me? And I feel like it might also, I want to get an answer. And, it's kind of been hinted at, I think, that Jeremy has kind of a wonky past, because wasn't part of the reason why he wanted to save dolls because he liked dolls. Dolls never treated him weird or something like that, and it had something to do with his parents. Like his parents died or something like that. I was looking for the note and I couldn't find it, and I didn't have time to go back and rewatch. So yeah, I love Jeremy. I really adore him, and I think the calling them way hot and everything was, Jeremy's kind of almost a surrogate for the audience. So I adore him. I love when Nicole asked him why he stayed, and he was like, nobody asked him to fit in, and he can just be himself and everything.
That was beautiful.
And his ray gun.
I also really liked he's not dead. I'd feel it in my groin. But now I'm wondering, would he really feel it in his groin? What if that's actually his superpower?
Well, it's kind of like, I guess if you want to think about it this way, people who break bones or who have arthritis and can kind of tell, because of the air pressure and stuff, that you can, your body aches. And maybe it's something weird with the metal that was used to repair Jeremy. Maybe it's a body ache. So that's why I'm kind of leaning more towards some sort of empath than necessarily all-out psychic. Although it is kind of brings up some questions why, okay, so he knew Wynonna was pregnant, but why didn't he know that Waverly was possessed by the goo? Stuff like that. Or maybe he did and he knew she was fighting it, or, scientific curiosity and stuff like that, So it's a lot of intriguing things with him. I love that he made a plastic ray gun.
I do too. He's such a nerd.
That was just, I love him so much. I was so glad that he wasn't dead by the end of the episode, because like I said, I was really concerned. I was really worried for him. So I was very happy. But yeah, he's interesting. I'm looking forward to getting maybe more of an answer on him as well. I liked how when dolls faced off with the Order, and then when Wynonna faced off with the Revenants and Shorties, they were the only ones shooting. The Order didn't shoot at dolls, and the Revenants didn't shoot at Wynonna. I literally have a note here. It's good thing none of them shot back. They all had guns. Why wouldn't they shoot back? Unless they were, in Wynonna's case, really concerned about, they didn't know where the baby was. But I have a hard time believing the Revenants were that forward thinking. They're not the sharpest tools in the shed for the most part. But yeah, it just made me laugh. I'm well, good thing they never shot back.
Yeah, I read that note in your recap, and I laughed at that too. I was like, that's a good point.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this already, that dolls. See, it doesn't help me if I make notes that I can cross off and then don't cross them off. I kind of love that Doc ran everywhere, and how quick that he still was getting places. He's oh, I know a shortcut, and he got there right in time.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder if Purgatory is like Rosewood, and there's only actually one street, and everybody's backyard is in everybody else's backyard. Shout out to Heather Hogan.
I wouldn't be surprised, but then it also lended to it was really confusing, because Doc from the well went through town to get through the homestead, and you've got dolls going I guess, he's back at the Welcome to Purgatory sign when he's, heading into town to get the doctor. So, it was all very confusing. But no, I did like that Doc just kind of ran everywhere. And still made it in time, and he wasn't really that out of breath. For somebody who has, bad lungs and everything, and smokes, you'd think he'd have a little bit more trouble. And then there were some really good Earp Sisters moments in this.
Many.
I love them. I did notice that we haven't really had Wynonna calling Waverly baby girl recently, and it kind of makes me really sad.
Yeah, I think they're dealing with stuff.
Yeah, I know. It's just, I love it when Wynonna calls her baby girl. And I wonder if she'll continue doing it now that she's, had a baby girl that
Oh,
she can make
true.
fun of.
Yeah, maybe not.
But no, I mean, just the moment, like the little moments they've gotten to talk, like the moment in the field when, Waverly's like, like, is there any way you've forgotten what I did? And she, like, Wynonna, like, threatens to put grass down her pants at the next moment, but she's like, just those moments where it's like you get the sister moments and you get the kind of like, I'm mad at you, but I still love you, and like the moment in Greta's house and everything, and just that moment with Peacemaker when Wynonna's like, you're an Earp. Like, so there were some really good Earp
I
sister
love that
moments.
Wynonna knew Waverly may not, like, wasn't her blood relation necessarily, and that she just didn't bring it up. She didn't treat her any differently. It didn't change anything in her mind, because blood isn't the only thing that makes a family, and Waverly is just her sister. And I loved I love that we started with an Earp Sisters hug fest. That helped calm me down.
Yes. Yeah, and I mean, even like with the chosen family thing, honestly, for me, I don't know how many other people felt like this, but for me, I didn't really, it wasn't, it was billed as such a big moment, Waverly walking across the line with the baby. It wasn't that big of a moment for me, I think, because, you look at chosen family, like, Wynonna decided it was Doc's baby pretty much the second she found out she was pregnant. Like, or the second, at least, Wynonna decided it was Doc's baby. The second she killed Jonas because she knew Doc was the better father. And to me, I think that is more impactful and more important than let's send the baby over the line to prove it's not half revenant. Because it's
Yeah.
Wynonna, it didn't matter to her. It was, this is Doc's baby. This is mine and Doc's baby. And the same with Waverly. Like, Waverly will always be an Earp to her. Waverly will always be her sister. It doesn't matter what the DNA results say. It doesn't matter if she ends up being half whatever. It's her sister, and nothing's going to change that. So I think, like, those kind of moments like that were more impactful to me than the walk across
I think
the
it
line.
was just that like, I get what you're saying, and and chosen family and all of that was beautiful, and it's all powerful, and I love the way that Wynonna views, family and the people that she loves.
Mm-hmm.
I do. It's just that outlying possibility, you know what I mean? And
I
that
get
was,
that, yeah.
yeah, that I was kind of like, I really did not believe at that point that it was going to hurt Waverly, because she had just held Peacemaker and everything, but it was just the courage of, like, taking those steps and knowing that it could hurt the baby that she's holding and, like, stuff like that. It was just,
Yeah.
and I mean, I think it was, I think that was, how it was intended and how it was built up. But I like what I like what you're saying about, like, the way Wynonna views family and the way she values more just what people mean to her and the significance that they have in her life.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm not trying to say that that moment wasn't at all important. I'm just saying, like, emotionally and kind of impactful as far as that whole thing goes, to me, it wasn't as important, like, emotionally. To me, it was like, okay, let's just confirm this. It's like, there were more things to me that felt more impactful and more emotional. So that's all I'm saying. Like, it was an important moment, especially because it kind of takes away anybody saying, well, the baby could still be blah, blah, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. So, it does do that. So, yeah, for me, it was the emotional
I
stuff
get that.
came not with that. Oh, I had, like, this is the randomest note, but it's like one of the last ones I have before I get into my quote stuff. I really kind of liked the chili cook-off line that
Yeah, that was
Wynonna
pretty
had.
funny.
The 2005 chili cook-off, especially because we got one from Nedley in the season 1 finale.
Did we?
So, yes, we did.
I won't lie.
Okay, so after, when Wynonna, like, when the crowd, who's all been poisoned by the champagne, kind of converges on
Right.
Wynonna, she asks him, like, and Nedley saves her, and she asks him, like, and he's basically like, I got this. You remember the chili cook-off from 2000?
Oh
You
my
remember the chili cook-off debacle?
Okay, I'm
Yes.
there. I have it. Yeah.
So, like, I really like throwback
Yeah.
stuff like that. And if we get a chili cook-off line in, like, each finale, I think that would just be, like, hilarious because it could, like, find all sort of fun ways to just kind of work it in. So, like, it made me laugh that we had a chili cook-off line in the finale. And I just like how, Waverly's like, I don't think that's, it's not the same. So yeah, that's like the randomest note I had, but I really liked it. All right, what else? What other stuff, favorite moments and stuff did you have?
I think, like, for the most part, we've covered a lot of my, like, favorite moments. Either you've said them or I've said them at this point. I was pretty upset when Perry got out of the helicopter, but then Waverly,
Me too.
I knew you were. I was so angry. I was angry for you, but then Waverly said Aunt Gus is waiting, and I was like, yes, she's going to be so happy. Because, I mean, I wanted to see Gus again, but I know you really wanted to see her again, and I'm sorry that we didn't get a cameo, but I know that we're both really glad that Gus is the one who's going to take the baby. I mean, she'll do a great job. Look at how good Waverly turned out.
Yes. No, I love that. The second Waverly mentioned, like, oh, the baby's going to be given up and stuff like that, I'm like, Gus! I immediately went to Gus. Like, they have to give her to Gus. There's no chance they're not going to give her to Gus. But, of course, when Perry stepped out of that, I was like, oh, what the heck?
Go home, Perry.
Yeah, get out of here. And I didn't talk about this, I liked that moment where Perry's like, well, this is the least I could do for Wynonna. She saved my life. And Nicole says something like her good deeds are finally being rewarded. And I kind of like that. But yeah, I'm so happy that the baby is going with Gus. I was so excited when she said Aunt Gus. Because there was no other option. There was no other option. It was a lot of, I think, all capsy tweeting when that happened. Because it was the second Perry stepped out, I was like, no! Yeah, I mean, Waverly turned out pretty solid, so Gus did something right. And I think, it'll be interesting to see where that all goes. All right, so what were some of your favorite quotes then from the episode?
There were so many. Like, right off the top, when Waverly was staring Bobo down from the barrel of her gun, and she was like, and you, that's a woman's coat. Like, I thought that was just really awesome. I got a good, chuckle out of that. We've talked about it, you and I, the entire reunion scene in front of the homestead with everybody sort of, meeting back up and everything. I mean, it was just one-liner heaven, honestly. I had to stop because I was just going to end up, transcribing the entire scene. But, I mean, Dolls, I woke up in a body bag in Wynonna, and they say you don't know how to party. And that settles it, no more dying. I liked Jeremy's, oh, we heard it, Godzilla stepped on a Lego. And Wynonna's, rapid fire, this sucker is coming out of my vagina. Yeah, my vagina, Jeremy. And, it was all gold. I also really liked Widow Beth's 2 wives are better than none. We must tend to him with the vigor of 3. She's crazy. I'm going to miss her so much. I really am. I had a lot of fun with
I know you
what
did.
about you?
I
know, me
so
too.
many.
That's why I'm just take it.
I mean, sorry guys, we're going to list off the whole episode, just FYI. When she goes, oh, I'm so glad to see you morons. And Nicole's like, thank you? That made me laugh in that in front at the homestead. And poor Nicole standing out there in the hospital gown and the moccasins. She must have been so cold.
Yeah, I was cold just staring at her.
And I already mentioned those shove grass down your pants just to make you squirm. I liked, sure this will work. Hell no. Which is exactly why it might. It's Wynonna Logic. Right. Don't question it. And with the gun and the plate. Hey, they know each other. Gun and plate.
Hashtag plate maker.
Yeah. I like, Nicole telling Wynonna that she's got her, that I got you, Earp, because that's now 2 sisters that she said that to. Nicole may be doing some occasionally shady things. Lord knows what she's up to. But I do like that she had those, she's got their backs. Let's see, what else did I have? Oh, Widow Mercedes telling Beth, your rotten box can wait on you for eternity.
That was pretty harsh. That was pretty bad.
Beth, yeah, that was just a lot of the Widow's lines with stuff like that. And the warm, fresh, straight out of the oven thing about Wynonna's baby. I was like, we're not talking about cookies here. We're talking about babies. Jesus. Oh, I had a Mama Earp theory, and that just reminded me, but I'm going to go through the quotes, and then I'll get into it. Oh, I know you're bad at math, but there are 2 widows.
Yeah. I like Greta's, my family still remembers the last time he ruled, and Wynonna's, So does ours. We get nasty demonic reminders trying to kill us on the reg.
Yes, that was great. Okay, and that kind of works into some, we don't know much about Mama Earp. I'm just going to go into it now. And I was thinking about it. What if, because, Greta's sitting there saying, well, our family remembers, and you've got Mama Earp who's sitting there talking about this demon who's risen and everything, or going to rise. What if Mama Earp has some relation to Greta's family? That would be interesting. So that was a random thought that popped into my head that I had to share. The Wynonna Earp time to meet Destiny better not be a nickname for your beef, because I'm not in the mood. And she did not say that's not my thing. She said I'm not in the mood.
That's true.
I have my own theory that Wynonna is not really as straight as she seems. Like most people on the show. Everybody's gay. Oh, and when Doc is like, it's been 12 minutes or less since your last contraction, you're dilating. And you read the books? Oh, that made me so happy. I was like, I can just picture Doc going down like a Wikipedia rabbit hole.
With Jeremy standing behind him, like ushering him through it.
Yeah. And just like when he says the Wikipedia, Jeremy's like, good job, guy. Like, that was so great. Oh, and Jeremy calling Bobo shit ticket. Wynonna's, it's fairly bad etiquette to kill somebody after you've had after you've had your fingers up their vag. Jeremy trying to banter with Bobo. You're no stranger to pain then. You're the one that's going to pain. Oh, and Nicole, what am I? That's easy.
Yeah, that was the last one on my list.
Sorry, as I just...
No, that's good, yeah. And I liked that whole divorce thing. How's the divorce coming? Yeah, I'm on it. Like...
Yeah, I mean, that kind of was... I don't know. Oh my gosh. Did we go an hour and a half without talking about Way Hot?
No, we talked about Way Hot.
I mean, like...
I think there was just so much that we couldn't spend a lot of time on Way Hot. But, we mentioned several times.
Yeah, I'm just surprised. Because, I mean, there's a lot there. I don't understand the divorce plot, if they were going to wrap it like
I think we'll probably, in our post-season thing, we'll probably delve into that a little bit more. Because I also have, it's weird. Yeah, we've got stuff to talk about there.
Definitely. Way to jump the gun on that. Okay, was there anything else that you had that you wanted to talk about?
No.
All right. So, everyone, I think that wraps it up for us. And as Laura seemed to already mention, because she jumped the gun, this is not the end. I know I teased that we were going to do something fun during hiatus. So here's the deal. We started this podcast with Season 2, Episode 4. Which means we have an entire season and 3 episodes in Season 2 that we haven't covered. So, we're going to be doing that during the hiatus. And I'd like your opinion. So, I want you guys to let us know how you want us to cover it. If you want us to go in with the knowledge that we already have and speculate and kind of act like that, or if you'd like to see us go in spoiler-free and try to talk about these episodes and ignore the knowledge that we already have. So I
don't see how that one's going to work out, but okay. If that's what they want, we'll do it.
Hey, it could happen. That's why I'm going to leave it up to our lovely listeners, because I honestly kind of want to give spoiler-free a shot. So we're going to be doing that. We may be doing some other special episodes. And we will be doing a Season 2 wrap-up. And we have a special guest that I'm not telling you people who it is yet. So you can look forward to that probably next week. It'll go up probably around a week from when this goes up. So you can't get rid of us that easy. Let us know kind of some of the stuff you'd like us to see. Still send us your theories, and maybe we'd be able to do a special episode about some fan theories that we'd like to see or something like that, speculation. So just let us know. And
I would be super into the fan theory thing, you guys. So please hit us up with those, because I love it every time Catherine and I talk about things people have mentioned or things that we've seen. So I think that would be a lot of fun, but
And as per usual, let us know your thoughts, especially since this was the season finale. We're officially on hiatus, so I'm sure you guys have a lot of speculation. So let us know. We want to keep engaged. So thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate the great feedback we've gotten. We really appreciate everybody listening and sharing. It's been so much fun doing this, and I'm so glad we can have so much more to give you guys. So once I get my recap up, it should be up by the time this airs. You can find my recaps and everything else I've written and Lara's written for 4YE. You can look at the Twitter account is at 4_Y_E, and the website is 4ye.co.uk. You can find me on Twitter at cmeushaw. That's at CMEUSHAW. And Lara, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at RSMayfair. And you can contact the two of us through the official Twitter for Make Your Peace, and that is at 4YE_MYP podcast.
All right, everybody. So like I said, we won't see you for a new episode of the show for a while, but we'll have a new episode of the podcast for you. So we'll see you then.